It's a phenomenal cause. I couldn't miss it. Even though I'm not wearing a fabulous heel, I'm wearing a sparkly flat, and that's all right.
Honestly, why is this event a must attend? They've been hosting it for almost 28 years now.
Oh my God, I didn't realize that long. AIDS is still an epidemic, as is, cancer, and it's just an honor to be a part of Elton's night, to make sure that awareness is just constantly still in our face, constantly raising money. That's what the cure needs. And there's, perhaps a little girl right now or a little boy right now that is born that will create that cure. So that's why all of the funding that is raised tonight has to go to them and us, and it's amazing.
All right, so you guys wanted to unpack Michelle Trachtenberg's final social media posts and kind of why they feel so poignant, after her death. It's pretty heavy stuff, but I think it's definitely worth exploring, right? I mean, we're talking about Dawn Summers from Buffy and Georgina Sparks in Gossip Girl, and even going back, to Harriet the Spy and Peter. I feel like she really made a mark, and passing away at just 39. I mean, that's just, it's left a lot of us kind of reeling,
Yeah, it's definitely shaken up a lot of fans. And yeah, taking a look back at her online presence in the weeks leading up to her passing, it does add kind of another layer to this whole thing.
For sure. So let's start with the basics, I guess. Michelle, she was found by her mother in her Manhattan apartment on February 26th. And police reports are saying natural causes, no suspicion of foul play. But there's been some talk about a recent liver transplant that she had and maybe some complications.
Right. And we can't, just ignore Rosie O'Donnell's statement. She worked with Michelle on Harriet the Spy way back when, and she did mention that Michelle had been, struggling in recent years. It does make you wonder, what she was going through privately while she was maintaining this, very public persona.
Totally. Especially when you look at those selfies that she was posting on Instagram.
Yeah.
A lot of fans were commenting on how thin and gaunt she looked. People were expressing concern for her health,
Yeah, and Michelle actually responded to one of those comments back in January of last year, I think it was. Someone asked if she was okay, said she looked sick. And Michelle actually fired back, said, explain to me how I look sick. Did you lose a calendar and not realize I'm not 14? I'm 38. How sad for you to leave such a comment. I want to sit down with bullies one day and say why. I mean, you can really feel that frustration, in her words there.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. I mean, can you imagine dealing with a serious health issue and then having people online dissect your appearance? It must have been so stressful.
It really highlights the double-edged sword of social media for celebrities, doesn't it? They want to connect with their fans, but then there's this constant scrutiny, and pressure to present, a certain image.
And it makes those selfies even more tragic looking back. You know what I mean? It's like we're catching these glimpses of her struggle, but at the time, it was so easy to just dismiss them or even misinterpret them.
Yeah, exactly. And what's especially striking is how those selfies were kind of interspersed with throwback photos, from happier times in her career, like the Killing Kennedy premiere or the School of American Ballet Winter Ball.
It's like she was trying to hold on to those memories.
Yeah.
To project a sense of normalcy while maybe silently, battling something really, really difficult.
It makes you wonder, what was going through her mind when she was posting those pictures. Was she trying to reassure fans, or was she trying to convince herself that everything was, okay?
Or maybe it was a way for her to process her own experience, trying to make sense of what was happening to her.
That's a good point. We tend to see social media as this platform for, performance, right? But it can also be a space for processing, for working through those really complex emotions.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something we forget, a lot of times. Behind those carefully curated feeds, there are real people with real struggles.
And those struggles are often invisible to the public.
Right.
They really are.
It's a good reminder, we never really know what's going on behind closed doors, even with people we feel like we know through social media,
Yeah. And that makes Michelle's story, all the more heartbreaking. We see these like glimpses of her struggle, but we don't, fully grasp the weight of it until it's, too late.
And it makes me think about that fine line between concern and speculation.
Yeah.
When does expressing worry about someone's like well-being, when does that cross over into, invasive gossip? Especially when it comes to like public figures.
Yeah, it's a difficult question, and there's no, easy answer really. But I think it's crucial to approach these situations with empathy and respect.
So like instead of jumping to conclusions about someone's health or personal life based on a few, social media posts, maybe we should focus on just like sending positive vibes and support,
Exactly. And maybe we should also be more mindful of our own online behavior, Are we contributing to a culture of like judgment and scrutiny, or are we fostering a space of compassion and understanding?
I think it's also important to consider the impact of our words, Even a seemingly harmless comment can have a profound effect on someone, especially if they're already feeling like vulnerable.
Absolutely. Words have power, right? And we need to use them responsibly, particularly, in the online world where things can, quickly spiral out of control.
And it's not just about celebrities, either. This applies to everyone we interact with online.
You're right. It's about recognizing the humanity in every person we encounter online, and treating them with the same kindness and respect that we would offer, in person.
It seems like Michelle's story is like sparking a much needed conversation about, how we navigate these complex issues of public image and privacy and like online etiquette in the digital age,
It certainly is, and it's a conversation we need to keep having, if we want to create a healthier and more compassionate online environment.
What about the fact that so much of our grieving process now, plays out in public on social media? Like, we're reposting Michelle's photos, we're sharing our memories, analyzing her final posts. It's a very different experience than how grief was handled, even a generation ago.
It is different, and it raises a lot of questions about the ethics of posthumously analyzing someone's online presence. Where do we draw the line between remembering and exploiting?
It's tough. I mean, in a way, these digital footprints are all we have left of someone after they're gone. But it feels different when we start dissecting them for clues or reading deeper meaning into things they might have never intended to share publicly.
I think it comes down to intention. Are we engaging with these materials in a way that feels like respectful and honors the person's memory, or are we using their death as an opportunity to generate clicks or stir up controversy or project our own interpretations onto their life?
It's a delicate balance for sure, and one that we as a culture are still figuring out.
Yeah, I agree. We're still navigating this uncharted territory of grief and remembrance in the digital age.
And I also can't help but think about the Buffy reboot that was in the works. I mean, fans were buzzing about Michelle's like potential involvement, and her passing just it adds another layer of sadness to the whole thing.
It does. It makes you wonder what she might have contributed to the project.
Yeah.
What her perspective would have been. I mean, we've lost a unique voice and talent.
Yeah, and it's a reminder that life is precious and unpredictable. We should cherish the moments we have and be grateful for the artists who touch our lives, even if it's through a screen.
Absolutely. And maybe Michelle's story can inspire us to be more present, more empathetic, more mindful of how we treat each other, both online and offline.
It sounds like we need to like move away from this culture of instant judgment and speculation and move towards a more compassionate and understanding approach to online interactions.
I think you're right. We need to remember that there's a human being on the other side of every screen, and our words and actions have real world consequences.
It feels like Michelle's passing, especially like in light of her social media activity, it has sparked a broader conversation about how we relate to celebrities in this this digital age.
Yeah, definitely. It forces us to kind of confront those blurred lines, between the curated persona we see online and the complex human being behind it. We feel like Like, we know these public figures, but we're often only seeing a carefully constructed fragment of their lives, really.
And because social media is so image driven, it's so easy to get caught up in superficial judgments about appearance, especially when it comes to women in Hollywood. Michelle's story, it's a stark reminder that there's often a lot more going on beneath the surface.
It's almost as if we collectively forgot that she was a person first, not just a character or a celebrity, someone who like all of us, experienced joys and sorrows and triumphs and struggles.
Thinking back to those final Instagram posts, it's hard not to feel a sense of sadness, knowing that we were witnessing a part of her journey that she may not have intended to share so publicly.
It's a difficult balance, isn't it? On the one hand, there's the right to privacy, right? The understanding that everyone, regardless of their fame, deserves a space to grapple with personal challenges without the glare of public scrutiny. But on the other hand, social media has become this unavoidable part of our culture, a place where many people, including celebrities, choose to express themselves and connect with others.
It makes you wonder if there's a way to reconcile these two seemingly conflicting ideas, right? Can we as a culture find a way to engage with celebrities online that feels both supportive and respectful of their boundaries?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It might require a shift in perspective.
Wow.
Perhaps we need to move away from this sense of entitlement. This idea that we have a right to know every detail of a celebrity's life, and instead cultivate an approach rooted in empathy and respect.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Michelle Trachtenberg's final social media post, what are the key takeaways we should be reflecting on here?
I think it comes down to this: recognizing the humanity in everyone we encounter online, being mindful of the power of our words, and remembering that we never truly know the full story of someone's life, especially when viewed through the filtered lens of social media.
Michelle's story, it's a powerful reminder that even in our hyper-connected world, it's possible to feel deeply alone as we navigate the complexities of grief and remembrance in this digital age. Maybe the best way to honor her legacy is to strive for a more compassionate and understanding online environment.
A space where vulnerability is met with kindness, where speculation is replaced with empathy, and where we remember that behind every screen there's a human heart beating.